Yeah, so we talk a bit about some of the weapons and how we're tuning them. So let's start with the Centennial. So Centennial, I personally use it a lot, and I always get so much flack for it, like, oh, this is shit gun, why you use it? You just use it to show us that people can actually use it. Blah, 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 blah. Fair enough, but still, I was kind of happy with it, but it was always a bit pressed for its place. There was always some pressure on the gun, and we just want to make sure that it has a bit of an easier time in comparison to the rest. So a couple of things we did. The primary thing is then increasing the rate of fire across the board by 20%. So this basically means that like shooting ADS, shooting from the shoulders, as well as the levering, overall will be a little bit faster. I mean, as you know, levering was always kind of a bit on the slow side of it, and it's still 20% of slow is still kind of slow, but it is a little bit better. So don't expect this thing to rapid fire like the Winfield C or any of the other like smaller caliber ones. But still, it will be able to just fire just a little bit better, a little bit faster, and that should just make the whole thing feel a bit more like as you control of what's going on.
Yeah, and it's across the board, so it includes all the aiming types. So aiming down sight, shoulder aim, and also the traits that you can use. So iron repeater or levering as well.
Exactly.
And let's look at some example videos then, how it was before and after. Starting with ADSing in iron sight, the old version first. Yeah, so that was the old one, and let's look at the change with the increased rate of fire. Yeah, so I think the change on that is quite obvious, and it just feels better, especially if you shoot that much like in the video. That 20% really adds up. But let's look at hip fire or shoulder aim and the old version. That was...
I think you mixed up the names there or something.
Yeah.
Because before I think it was also with iron repeater what you showed.
Yeah. Let me just find okay, the correct one. Yeah, so this is the hip fire, I'm sorry. So this is the old hip fire again.
Then show the new one in comparison.
And here's the new one.
So here it's much more clear now.
Yeah.
So ignore the videos from before, the context now, shoulder aim. So this is like the 20% faster now between this and the previous video. I think that's like the best comparison there. I mean, again, best thing is to just try this out. Let's not hurt the people with more gunshot sounds. It's quite a lot of ammunition in that weapon. But I think they got the point. Let's move on to the next one.
I just wanted to show the levering example once.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
So this is the old one. And here is the new one.
Yeah.
I think this is really cool. Yeah.
It's like the 20% on top. It really makes a difference. Like before it kind of felt like, so why is it not doing anything now for like split second right before it continues? So it felt a bit robotic. And now it feels a bit smoother because of that. Obviously still same of control issues as before, and it's still not the, I guess, most reliable of leverings. I would still prefer the Winnie C when it comes to that. But it does have it does give more of a fighting chance now.
Right, so again, make sure to like play around with the Centennial on test servers and let us know how you feel with all the changes regarding it. Rate of fire. Yeah, so I've seen people asking what is ROF. As Dennis mentioned, it's rate of fire, and after the videos, it should be quite obvious as well. But let's move on to the Terminus changes, Dennis. Let's see what's there.
Yeah, so it's same treatment there, but differently. So with the Terminus, we've been focusing primarily on the reload rather than the shooting, because the reload was actually what made the whole thing feel very slow, hard to control. It was like taking ages to put like a new shell in, even with the cycling mechanism not being the most modern, right? Like it has its flaws. Like it still felt like it could be just like speeding up a little bit because it's like a life and death thing here. And now by increasing the reload speed by 20%, it just makes the whole thing a little bit better to kind of top up, and it doesn't feel like you're losing so much time between shots, and actually gives you a bit of chance to respond. And we also at the same time did a little bit of a smoothening pass across the firing animations and the timings there, and that resulted in roughly 5% of a fire rate increase as well.
Exactly, and we have some old and new examples for this as well. So let's look at some of the old version, and this will show a bunch of stuff actually. So this is hip fire. And then the reload, obviously. This is as currently on live.
Yeah, the old one, slow one, takes you ages.
It was always so slow. That's why it was not my favorite shotgun to use actually.
So like it gets you there eventually, but you're probably dead 2 times over already.
Exactly. And this is the ADS.
Yeah.
And let's see how it's changed in 1.9. So hip fire.
So you can see like this very, very minor increase in the rate of fire. So it's just a little bit, it's more of a cleanup. But here, this is where the magic starts. So this is where you actually reload this thing and actually have a chance. It still takes a long time, obviously, to put the rounds in, just like with any weapon, you reload one round after the other. But overall, it feels so much smoother. Like it feels like the weapon is actually doing what you want. And that helps quite a lot.
Exactly. I think in general, it just feels a bit smoother and not that super mega clunky when you reload. And let's look at the examples with the levering as well for this weapon. So the old version on live, like as on live.
As you can see here, like it kind of fired slow, but fired steady. It was more about aiming, which was the issue, like getting the target back on your sights. And there isn't too much of a change here against like the 5% change roughly that translates into it.
And obviously the last trait that affects it is the iron repeater. I can also show here. This is the old version again.
Yeah.
And here is the new on 1.9. It's just a slight little change.
Feels a bit snappier, right? Like just a little bit.
I think you can actually tell. Like I know it's just around 5% change, but you can still feel it a bit smoother in general. So I really like it.
Yeah, so like between the Centennial and the Terminus, I mean, both weapons that I really enjoy playing, but like they have always had a bit of a they've always like one step below some of their competitors, and that hopefully just evens the playing field a little bit, brings them back up more as valid choices for some people.
Awesome, and but that's not all the balance changes we have, and we have a very big one actually, I guess, in terms of excitement. Ooh, which is a change to the long ammo pistol balance.
Yeah, so for what we will talk about now, it will only affect the uppercut for the moment.
For now, yes.
that might mean there might be other things up in coming out eventually or soon, or maybe a bit later. We don't know. We'll talk about it more in the future. But this is in preparation of that, but obviously also will affect the uppercut, we think, for the better.
Exactly.
So this is basically, I mean, just showed the next one already as well. We're going to talk about them together. So this is going to be shifting, side shifting the weapon slightly, about reducing the damage at close range just a nudge, just a little bit, while retaining actually a bit more damage than it does right now, over distance. So the idea behind this is that we would like the uppercut to no longer down someone at 125 hit points at the same range it does at the moment. It will still be able to do it, just like 10 meters less than it can do do right now. So right now, this is, I think, 30 meters. It can do that, and it will be around 20 meters now. So just a small reduction in its base damage in order to achieve that goal. So it is below 125. On the other hand, however, it retains a lot more of the damage over distance, which means you can actually kill people on their last 50 even further out than before. And it has some knock-on effects also, obviously, for the headshot range, so effective range in order to snipe people at distance. So let's have a look at that in the graphs. So this is, I think people will be kind of split whether they call this a buff or nerf. We don't think it's either. We think it's a side change that kind of shifts the weapon just a little bit. So if you take a look at the old one, the orange one, you see its starting point is just a little bit higher than that, and that meant that you could get to 126 damage like at 30 meters, and with a changed version, it's going to be around 20 meters. So that's where like a bit of a nerf is happening in the short range. Then again, over distance, you can see the long ammo actually retains that damage a little bit further out. So you see it staying over 50 damage for quite some time before dropping down. And then eventually, obviously, whether it's 19 or 12 at that long distance doesn't matter that much. But there is a knock-on effect if you go to the next one. Which is the headshot range, is that because of the way the curve is adjusted, and obviously headshot damage being higher, it has an effect on the effective range. Effective range is basically the stat that tells you at which range can you do a headshot, like want to kill 150 hit points dead. And you can see right now is that you are gaining quite a few meters with that to 115. So that's basically the weapon becomes more of a pocket rifle further even, because it actually extends the range of the weapon quite a bit. But it is becoming a bit less flexible, less of an all-rounder up close, where maybe some of the other pistols will be a better choice for you. You have to make that your choice yourself, obviously, because you can't just easily kill that dude that you downed earlier, maybe just down it one more time just with a body shot, because it might do now less than 125 damage, rather than being reliably above before. Again, this is only for this very short distance of 20 meters we're talking about. So within that, everything is fine as before. Only after that, will it not be enough anymore to down the guy that lost already a small chunk.
Yeah, and again, just to mention it slightly, it is basically to give place maybe for something that will come maybe one point.
Yeah. So the preparation of this, you can already see, like it's about like moving the uppercut into a specific direction, moving it into what it shouldn't do, etc. And yes, as Spence was saying, like this is in preparation for something that we can talk about more in one of the next streams, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah. Awesome. And again, just test it out on test server and let us know how you feel about this change as well. And I've seen people already mentioning or asking for this in chat, but let's see what happens to the slugs. So the slug balance pass.
Yes, slugs is a big and important topic. So first thing we're doing for slugs is we reduce the effective range for medium barrel length variants. Now, what does that mean? Primarily, like with the shotguns, when you shoot shot, for example, there is a clear distinction between the different barrel lengths of shotguns we have in the game. So like the sawn-offs being like short barrels, then we have the rival, the slate, as well as the Spectre with the bayonet being medium barrel length, and then we have the Romero, the full length Spectre, as well as the Auto 5 being long barrel. And that has an effect on the choke, that has an effect on how the weapon spreads when you fire a shot. However, it did not really have so much of a difference when it comes to slugs, and that's something we're changing now. So until now, slugs have only been separated between the sawn-offs and the others, which means in practice, the slugs fired from, let's say, a Spectre with a bayonet and a Spectre without a bayonet has been pretty much the same. There was no clear distinction between that. The only difference was that obviously the bayonet gave you a stronger sway for aiming, which actually mattered for slugs. But the actual projectile was identical. Now, by introducing this difference is that we can now bring a bit more balance into the weapons that we think on the slug range they kind of need that the most. So primarily the Slate and the Rival. And obviously has a knock-on effect for the Spectre bayonet as well for consistency. Now, those will have just slightly less damage. That means less one-hit kill damage at a distance. So you will have just chop off like a meter or two or three, depending on the weapon, compared to their full-sized versions. So that means they kind of sit like 2/3, I would say, roughly from the sawn-offs towards the full-sized ones, when there should definitely be a noticeable difference for how slugs will then operate with these weapons. We also adjusted the damage multipliers to require more precision to hit the upper torso. Now that means basically that you can't score so easily anymore a kill by hitting the lower torso. So you will have to be a bit more precise. You will have to hit the upper torso. Keep in mind that if an arm is blocking, it still counts as a torso hit, right? It's a system we have for a couple of years now. But the lower torso hit zone alone is meant to no longer do this at the same range. So obviously if you're close enough, fair enough, but at a distance, at one point you will have to hit the upper torso in order to get a reliable one-hit kill. So precision matters a little bit more for them. It's less easy to just like hip shoot and then hope for any torso hit to do the job. You now need to be a bit more precise.
I see a lot of happy people in the chat for you, so
that's good. Yeah, I like happy people. We do like them. The last thing is actually a reduction in the spare ammo count as well, where we drop down the extra ammunition for when you carry slugs by 30 to 40%. So that means depending on the weapon, it's rounded up. You might lose like 2 or 3 extra shells of slugs compared to what you have on live. So in combination, we feel that this will be quite a nice balancing approach of getting the slugs a bit better under control. They're still powerful. They're meant to be powerful. It's basically like a caliber 50 or more, like musket shot coming down your range. It's quite a big thing. And it's powerful and it's meant to kill. If you were to build realistic slugs, you basically wouldn't see different to rifles, I guess, in the game at the distances that you fight with, except for precision maybe being different. But since it's a game and we want to make sure that shotguns and rifles each have their own place, and the slugs kind of cannibalize in both camps a little bit. This approach of how we established slugs in Hunt is something we still want to hold on to, but there was some balancing needed in order to make sure this whole thing is just better distributed and fair distributed and overall more consistently applied. So yeah, tell us what you think about that one. Again, on the test server then, once it goes there. It's easy for us to do further adjustments, but first we want to see how this one goes, and then if there's any feedback from your side that we should move in one or the other direction with it.
So this one time we ask everyone to play with the slug and yeah, just see the changes, let us know how you feel, and obviously we always read your feedback on all platforms and we can make changes according to how you feel about it as well. But I think a lot of people can agree with it that this is a good direction for sure, and it has its own place now a bit better.
Yeah, give it a try.
Yep, and let's look at the poison changes that we are adding.
I like that this is the only slide in the presentation with a like a green header.
I have to go for the style then.
That's fair enough.
Yeah.
So for poison, it's basically a similar change as we've been doing to incendiary bullets in the past. Is that for poison bullets, so that excludes, for example, crossbow or any area effect stuff. They just use the same damage as the normal ammunition does. So you still have the handicap of not being able to penetrate walls because they kind of like burst on impact, right? But it gives you a chance to kind of play with the silenced weapon as if you had the normal one, just as you can do with the incendiary versus the normal one as well. So makes the whole thing hopefully a little bit more interesting for PvP, specifically since some of the weaker weapons like the Winfield, etc., like you really felt that damage nerf compared to the basic ammunition. So this should just help at least stand your ground in a fight. Obviously, if the guy is smart and uses cover, you're still at a disadvantage, just like you are with some of the other special ammunition types. So I think this is just a very small change, but it's also a good and healthy one.
I really like it because now I will play Sparks a lot more with custom ammo, so it's a great change. That was it for the poison change. So again... Yeah.
Just one thing. So systemically, obviously, since they have more damage, it also means AI might die a few meters further out, right? As it uses multipliers to kind of like calculate the total damage based on hit location, distance, etc., right? So if there's higher base damage, it also means that you might kill things at a further damage out, further range out a little bit easier. But we're talking just about a few meters. So
someone asked, so if it can't penetrate, how does it deal the same damage? Maybe just like explaining that.
It's the poison. It's the poison that does the damage.
Exactly.